Okay, so the first thing I need to do here is install SQL, right? So see down at the bash terminal at the bottom of your screen, I want you to type in my SQL dash CTL space install. Okay. There you go. All right. Up there, look. That's the code. Okay. Right, so what that does is it enables SQL on the server, which wasn't done previously for you. The next thing we want to do, firstly, take out, you should see that your root user is your user account name, and your database is C9, yes? What's that? No, if you're doing it properly, you would, but just for demo, will not. Right, okay. Next thing, PHP myadmin dash CTL space install. Okay. MySQL-CTL space install and PHP myadmin-CTL space install. At the moment, no. Guys, we're not setting up a password. When you're done, you can set one up if you want, right? But I'm just going to keep on going with this just now, okay? Right, we got it. There's your two commands. Everything should be hunky-dory. Alright. All got it? Alright. So that sets up SQL on the server, and also it sets up PHP myadmin with a default of no data, no password. Again, that can be tackled later on. So the first thing you'll see here, you've got hello world.php as your file, right? I want you to double click on hello world.php. Okay. The next thing you'll do is run your project, which is effectively you sticking the server on, right? And then you go to preview and preview running application. Now, we've discussed this before, right? I'm not a big fan of the split screen view here, right? So what I would do is click here and make this pop out to the full screen, and then I'm just going to switch between them like this, right? Now, you'll notice that it gives us a display of the index, the files. That's because we've not got a file called index.php yet. On any given server, the default is to look for a file called index. If it doesn't find it, it will display a file listing. Okay, so you'll see hello world.php is there. Click on hello world.php, it should say hello world from Cloud9. You all got it? Right, so that means it's working, right? So the next thing we need to do is actually is go into PHP myadmin. And so I'm just going to, at the very end of this, see what it says hello-world.php, just delete that and just type in php myadmin and then press enter. And if it's installed properly, it'll give you the login screen. Okay. Your username for this will be your username for Cloud9. It's displayed up there if you're in any doubt. Okay. And just to log, once you've typed in your username, click on go, and that should log you in. You come to this screen. All right. Now, you'll see here down the left-hand side, these are the databases it's set up for you. In the demo one that I used, I had a database called Robin because it was for a particular student. But we're just going to use the C9 database in this one. So everyone click on the C9. Alright. And what you'll see up at the top is it will say server 127.0.0.1. This is the local host address. And it will say database C9. Now, rather than us having to type out loads of commands or click loads of buttons, all we're going to do here is click on SQL, this wee bit here. And you're going to paste in your code that you copied earlier. So that database file that I gave you, copy it, paste it, and you'll see it formats it properly now. And hopefully you click and go, and it should say MySQL is returning an empty result, 0 rows. Alright, and if you want to see if it's worked, click on structure. I've got comments. So I've only got one table there. Right, let me check my code there. Okay. Right, in order to put in the new database file, if you have a look. So we had this, if you click on structure, I've got a comments table that I want rid of, right? So I can just click on drop, and that destroys the table. Okay. Then I go back into SQL. Get the new SQL file, paste it in, and click on go. That should run it, and the structure should have 3 tables now. If you've got to the 3 table structure, then you're winning at the moment, alright? Okay, so let's have just a quick nosy at this database first, right? There is some content in it, and that's absolutely fine. If we go into bookings, you'll see there that I've got you've got the 3 records in it, right? So if you go to browse, Erin, and Robert. Okay. If you click on structure and go to comments, you'll see I've got various things attached to different records. All right. And I don't think I've got anything. If I go to database C9 up at the top and go to users, there's nothing in there at the moment. That's fine. All right. There's a link between the comments and the bookings with a foreign key. All right. That's the only remarkable thing about this. I think for the time being we're finished with the PHP My Admin, so we can close that window down just now. All right. Now, in my view, in Cloud9, we've got this split view, which I don't like. So I'm going to go to View and Layout, and I'm just going to Single. Okay. And if I want to preview it, I'm just going to make it pop out into a different window. All right, because see if you've got 2 monitors or a bigger, higher resolution or whatever, it's fine to split the screen. I just think it's too footery. And I'm going to try and make this a wee bit bigger. Is that better? Control plus. Control plus makes your font bigger. All right. Make sure you click to the window first. Control minus. Clearly enough. Right. Okay. So we'll start with the easy bit, right? We're going to make a new file called index, a new PHP file. So in here, just close Hello World over. And you can close README as well over, right? So I've got nothing open at the moment. I'm just going to go to File, New from Template, and I'm just going to choose PHP file. Okay. Now, even though I've called this PHP, at the moment there's very little PHP going to be in this file. So I'm just going to press enter a few times, and I'm just going to set up an HTML document. Okay. Now, see when you're coding, I'm a big fan of copying and pasting stuff, alright? But I'm working with you here, so I'm just going to take this out. So we've got the HTML, we've got head, inside the head, we've got title. I'm just going to call it my bookings, right? After the head, we've got body. And I'll give it an H1 and just say my restaurant. Okay. Underneath my H1, I'm going to put in an H2. And I'm just going to say book a table. Okay. Now, something I've not done here, but I have not closed off my HTML. So see in line 2, I'm going to go back up and type in HTML. And then right down after I've closed the body, I'm going to close my HTML. And that should be set up. So I'm going to put a couple of wee comments in, just because it's good practice. And I'll just say this is the booking form. And underneath that, H2 search for booking. And underneath that, I'll just say this searches for booking. All right. We all okay so far? So at this point, it's probably a good time to save it. I'm going to save it as index.php. And once I've done that, I'm going to go to preview and preview on application. As I say, it pops into the side window, make it pop out, and that's what it should look like. All right. Index.php. All right. Because there's PHP code in it, although it doesn't run at the moment. Okay, it will be later. So what we want to do now is create two forms. One form that allows us to book a table. That's probably the easiest one to process at the moment. All right. So in here, I'm going to say create my form. So form method equals post. Okay. And the action, that's the page it's going to go to when I submit it, equals, I'll call it book.php. All right. I've tried to make this form a wee bit more interesting than the usual ones by putting a date and a time in it, just to let you see how that works. I'm going to put labels in it as well. As I said, I'm not going for aesthetics at the moment, right? And there's no point in making it look nice in a kind of half-assed type way. So it'll be a very boring black and white site for the time being. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say label is the name, and after that I have an input box. All right, inputs type equals text name. Now I always find it's good to get into a habit of being consistent when you're naming things. I will call this name box, and if I have a password, I call it password box, and if I had a booking, I call it booking box, right? Because you'll be working between different pages, so if you remember what it's called, it's always easier. So I will just call this name box. All right. Underneath that, I'm going to have the date box. So I'm going to create a label for date. And input type equals, and this is where the HTML5 comes into its own. I'm just going to put in date. Name equals date box. Underneath that, label, and I have time. Input type equals time. And name equals time box. And if I call them all with box at the end, it means I don't have to jump between my pages when I'm trying to remember things. Okay, now when we submit this, we're going to go to the book.php page. We want to be able to differentiate between what's sent us to the book.php page, right? So we want to be able to know, well, did they come here to book something? Did they come here to search for something? What are they trying to do here? So what I'm going to do is put in input type equals hidden. Now this is never seen by the user, alright? Value equals book. And name book as well, alright? And what that means is that when we pass this form, the hidden value gets passed as well. And we can check that what form it was that sent us the information. And depending on what form it was that sent us the information, we can do different things. Alright, that's why I'm putting that in. Okay. So I'll put a wee comment in. This allows us to check which type of form was used. Okay. You can comment it in your own style or however you want to do it. Alright. And here then I've got to have my submit button. A form is nothing without a submit button. So input type equals submit. Value equals book. Oops, made a mistake with my quotes. Okay, let's give it. Right, so that's a good point to save the file and then go and preview it and see what it looks like. And now you should see we've got a wee form in there. Alright, again, nothing grand to look at, but it'll do the job. Couple of things you'll notice, right? So I could type something in here, and you'll notice now if you click in the date box, it gives a wee calendar. Right, which is quite good. Okay, and you see how little code you had to put in to get that. It's just you to say type date and it gives you that. So I'm going to say 2nd of December, and this one here you can use the wee arrows to choose your time. Now, that's all well and good. If I click on book, it just comes up saying it's not found, right? Because I've not made the next page yet. Okay. But the point of it is, it's trying to take this information and send it to another page. That's what's happening here. Couple of wee things, right? Say I take out the name and click. Say I take out the name and try and click on book. It still tries to send, which is a bit of a flaw. We don't want somebody to be able to send information with blanks in it. So see, after name equals name box, put a space in and just say required. Okay. And now if you try to submit it without putting in a name, it tells you, or it asks you, please fill in this field. So that's adding some nice validation to the form already. Alright. Okay. And you can do that in the other box as well if you wanted. Right, so the next page we want to make, well, I would say it would be book.php. But that's not necessarily true, because what we need to do here, we need to connect to our database. Unless we connect to the database, nothing's going to happen. So I tend to call my connections file dbconnect, right? It's just a habit. So I'm going to go to File. Have we all got that? Is that okay for everyone? So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to New from Template and choose PHP file again. Except this time we're actually going to write some PHP. Okay. So we need to get some variables up here. So $sign, and I'm just going to say server name equals, and in this case it's going to be localhost. All right. Sometimes it won't be localhost. In this project, in this module, always will be. All right. Username. So variable username equals MicG77 in my case. Yours will not be MicG77. Yours will be whatever your username is. Password equals blank, like that. And DB name, I think for all of us, is C9. Unless you did something different. Okay. Right, so this is just setting values to variables, but it's what we do with the variables that matters. We're going to set up a new variable called con, and that's for the connection, and that is going to try and store it as an SQL command. All right. So I'm going to put in con equals new my SQLi, and then all we do is we pass it in the variables. Server name, username, and you'll see Cloud9's quite smart that if you start typing it out, it knows what you're trying to put in. Passwords and DB name. Okay, put a wee comment up there, that creates a connection. And that's all well and good, right? But what we want to have here is we want to check the connection. Okay, so I'm going to say if con gives us a connect error, then we kill the connection, and we say connection failed. Now, what I'm going to try and do here is append it. I'm attaching a string and a variable together, right? So to append them, you've got to use a full stop. Okay. And I'm going to say con connect underscore error. And what that should do is tell us what the error is if there is an error. I'm not going to bother putting in else database connected, right? Because we don't have to remove that because it looks kind of amateurish, right? You don't, every time you go on Amazon, you don't get, oh, database connected, right? And I'm going to go to file and save as db connect.php. Now, in this, I'm calling it dbconnect.php. All I want you to understand is you can call this anything you like, as long as you're consistent. Alright? So for purposes of the demo, I'd probably stick with what I'm doing, but when you're doing your own codes, you can write whatever file names you like, alright? Okay. So I'm going to go into my other window here. And rather than, sorry, at the end of my address, I'm going to put in dbconnect.php. And hopefully I get a blank file. Because if I don't get a blank file, it means there's an error, right? So in this case, no output is good. It means it's made the connection to the database. Okay. Working for everyone? Right, I'll come around and see you. Nothing. You're supposed to get nothing. So that's us finished with DB Connect. We don't need to do anything else with it. I know it seems like we're making a bit of a leap of faith without saying it is working, but it should tell us if it's not working. So I'm just going to close DB Connect at that point. Right, back to the task at hand. Book.php is the page we're going to create next. So I'm going to go to File, New from Template, choose PHP, and the first thing I'm going to do is go to File and Save As, and just call it book.php. Alright. So this is where most of the hard work's going to get done. Alright. First thing we're going to do, I know, sorry. The first thing we're going to do here is we need to get a connection to our database. Have we written any code that would allow us to connect to our database? What was it called? DB Connect. Good. Right. So I'm going to put a wee require at the top of the page. If you don't put this in, it will never run. Right? It will just say it doesn't know what you're talking about. So require DB Connect. .php. Sometimes people put include. Include means it will power on without it and try things, but we know that if it doesn't find this, nothing's going to work. So that's why I'm putting require. Alright. Okay. So this page here is only interesting to us if we have come from the form. If we've not come from the form, then it's not really going to make that much use to us, right? Okay, let's see if we can set it up so that it knows it's come from the booking form, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say if. Now, a couple of wee things to watch out for. So you put in the dollar sign, it's a post variable, but it's an underscore after it, alright? That's something that I always make mistakes with. So if the post, and we'll say the form name. So what did I call my hidden variable? Let's go back to the index page. Let's see. Hidden variable was called book, wasn't it? Right. So I'm going to say if form, I'll say book equals book, because that was the name and the value, right? Then I'm just going to put a wee echo statement. Echo, we have come from the booking form. Let's give that a wee go. Now, in order to get this running, we need to come from the index page now, right? So if I run this, not really, as long as you don't mix them up. Because if you mix them up, I'll show you when we go through it, alright? But if you mix them up, I remember that when I did my JavaScript in my degree, quotes were the thing. That was the last thing I actually had to do, is get my quotes right. So I'm going to put something there, go to book. We have come from the booking form, alright? So that looks quite good, alright? Now, underneath that, what I need to do is start querying our database, right? So what we are trying to do here is we are trying to insert a new booking into the bookings table. Agreed? Right. So what we're trying to do is we're getting the name, the date, and the time of the user, and we're putting that into our database. Yes? Right. So we need 3 variables here. And I'm not going to be very imaginative, but I'm going to go for name, I'm going to go for date, and I'm going to go for time. Okay? So name equals, and I'll say $_post. And what was the box called? No, remember I told you, keep it easy. What's the box called? Name box. And it seems like a small point, but if you know constantly what the box is called, it saves you a lot of messing about. Date equals, and again, we're taking out the post, submit. And what's it called? Date box. You've got the idea. And then that one's time box. Now, I just want to try this out, right? So see here, I'm just going to put in an echo. And I'll just say echo. I'll not put quotes, I'll just put echo name. Now, you understand this still isn't right into the database yet because we've not put any SQL in, alright? But I'm just going to say echo name, so I'm just going to try this out. So, I'll just refresh the index page. I'm just going to type in name tester, click on book, and it says we have come from the booking form tester. So that means it's actually passing the values in, yeah? That's come from the other page. All understand? That big silence. It's quite important that you understand that. Yes? Okay. So I'm going to take that out because it's quite untidy, right? But again, it gives you that wee bit of confidence that you're not trying to jump a million miles at once. You're doing kind of baby steps through it, but that doesn't do any harm. It's better that you do that than you write 100 lines of code and then try and decipher where the error is, because it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack at that point. You'll come and see in a minute, alright? Okay, so we have got our variables, and where this becomes useful to us is when we use it with SQL. So I'm going to set up an SQL statement. I'm going to say SQL equals, and then in quotes, insert into bookings. I'll say name, date, and time. What is that? What am I referring to there? What am I referring to? I'm not referring to the variables though. What's that? No, we're done with the input box. We've kind of, they've had their use. Do you know what I mean? Sorry? Yeah. We're referring to the names of the rows in the table. Right? So we've said insert into bookings name, date, and time, values, and this is where we put the variables in. Okay. And I'll say yes. And I'll say name. Oh, sorry. Date. And time. Now, the order's very important here, because it takes the order of the first bit of the statement, name, date, and time, and it replicates them here. Remember your semicolon at the end of that line. So that is us prepared an SQL statement, alright? Now we've not executed this yet. We've simply set this up. The next thing we want to do is actually process the query. Now, what I could do here to process the query, I could say MySQLi con for the connection, and SQL is the name of the query, and that processes it, right? However, that's quite an unintuitive way of programming it. What I want to do is check that it's worked. Okay, So with this wee statement here, I'm going to put an if around it. So I'm going to say if, and that's if that's successful, just say echo thanks for the booking. Oops. Else, and we'll just say echo. Hopefully this isn't what we get. Error dot SQL dot and put a space in, and I'll say dot my SQLi underscore error. And what that should do is tell you what the error is again, alright? Hopefully you don't see it, but it's a bit more intuitive. Okay, so I'm going to save that and go and try and run this. So I'm going to put a name in. I'm just going to say Michael, and just choose a date out of my calendar. It doesn't matter what time I put in, and click on book. We're okay, so I'm getting an error in there. We have come from the booking form, unable to call to undefined function in SQLi on line 13. So I've got a mistake on line 13. Alright. Right, I see it, That should be MySQLi underscore query. Okay. And I'll try running it again. So it says we've come from the booking form. I'll take that out. Thanks for the booking. So the only way to check if this has worked is for me to go into PHP My Admin. At the moment, right, we will put out an output. So I'm just going to say PHP My Admin. Okay, I'll need to log in again. Just log me out. I'll go into the C9 database. I'll go into bookings. And you'll see there's my booking that I've just made. Alright, so that's us taking the form, processed it in an SQL query, sent it to a database, and it's worked. Alright. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here is try and display the information on the table. This should be reasonably straightforward, right? Couple of things we've got to do. Right, couple of things we've got to do. Firstly, we need to get all the information out of the database. That's dead easy. That's just select all from bookings. The second part is a wee bit more difficult because we then have to output it, right? So let's. I'm going off the beaten note from my beaten track from my notes here a wee bit, but it should be okay. So we're going to set up a new statement now. We want this page to display the bookings regardless of whether they've come from the form or not. All right. So we can come out of this if, but we're still in PHP, so we're going to set up a new variable, and we'll call it just call it my query, right? So this is I'm writing. I'm terrible at SQL, right? I can't even remember any of it. So select all from bookings, yeah. Now there is no condition to this. There's no caveats. It's not where such and such equals such and such. It's just everything. Okay. Now, see that wee thanks for the booking up there? I'm just going to take that out. I'm in two minds whether to turn this into a function because I'm going to repeat the code. It's never good to repeat code, but I'm just going to repeat it for just now, alright? So let's see what we're doing. So we want to run the query and test for any errors. So see those two lines of code there? I'm going to copy them, right? And paste them underneath. Alright. This time it's not connection SQL it's looking for. It is connection my query. That's what I'm looking for. Do you understand that? Right, so I've checked the connection and now I'm running the query and the query is select all from bookings. If you're rubbish at SQL like I am, okay, I'm going to go back into. I'm going to go back in here now. There's the code. Select all from bookings. See that? I go to browse. What's that again? So if I go into my table, go to bookings, select all from bookings. It's got bookings and quotes. Now you've been doing that with Helen recently. Will I put it in quotes or will I not? See there? It's got quotes. Doesn't need it though, does it? Okay, stick with it then. Right. And your head beat Lindsay, right? You made eye contact, right? So if it doesn't work, then we'll go back and look at it. That should work. So we have now processed the query and we have got the information in the page. Here's the difficult part. What we need to do is output all the data, right? If you want something to go over again and again, what sort of program command you put in? A loop, right? So you could have a for loop or a while loop. In this case, it'll be a while loop. Now, I'm going to tidy this up a wee bit. I'm going to put in a variable called result up here. And I'm going to say result equals. Right? And then I'll just say if result. Try that. Okay. Tidies up the code a wee bit. And what that should let me do is I can then say if result num rows. Now num rows is a predetermined code in PHP. If num rows is greater than 0, what does that mean? It means if it's found something, right? Then this is where I put my while loop in. So what condition could the while loop have? Really what I'm looking for is while there is a row being found, do this, right? So the syntax for this, I'll put a wee comment in, while there is a row, and I'm just going to say while $row equals results, and the code here is fetch association, right? I'm going to cheat a wee bit here, right? And I'm just going to put an echo in and say row found. See the way I cheated in the wee demo earlier on when I comment here, comment here? That's what I'm doing at this point, right? So if the result produces a number of rows is greater than 0, and then while row result is finding results, echo row found. How many bookings have I got at this point in my table? 4. Let's give this a wee run and see. Okay, I'll just put something in there. Go to book. Right? Has it worked? Yes, it has, right? It doesn't look good, but it has worked. Because it just says found row, found row, found row, found row, found. Right? So row found 1, row found 2, row found 3. Is that 5 it's got? Might put the next one. Right, so earlier on, that's what's getting output 5 times. That's not what I want to be output 5 times, right? What I want to be output 5 times is... Now this is where you've got to get your syntax right, okay? Right, so... we will say... name, okay? Now, I want then to output what's in that row. So I'll say row name. That was the name of the column, wasn't it? Yes. Okay. And then I'll put in space date. I'll say dot dollar row. Because I should have. See in there. See if I don't put spaces in, it'll look really messy. So that should make it look better. Okay. And dot time. Okay, now if I save that, drag it up a wee bit so you can see the code. There we go. It's looking a bit better. Right, still an absolute mess though. But it's returning the proper data, isn't it? Because the first two I showed you, they were Erin and Erin. Then we had Robert. And then I've tested it and put in Michael, and then I've just put in kind of nonsensical ones just to test it out. Alright. So it's up there. So how can I make this a bit better? No, but I like your thinking, right? Backslash n's a C command, but we're in HTML, so we can do two things here, right? We can output it as a table, or we can output it with a break line, right? It's a table would probably be neater, but it's more work. So we'll go with the break line just now, okay? So at the end of that line, we just want to put in another dot, quotes, and put in br slash. It still won't look amazing, but we're not really going for the visuals at the moment, alright? That's looking more like it, isn't it? Now, a couple of things I'm going to change. See that we've come from the booking form. I'm going to take that out now. Okay. Yeah, that is it. All right. Does that make sense to you all? Good. Why what? Sorry. Oh right. Sorry. That's kind of shorthand, right? What that's saying is that I've not put anything in there. But what I've said is that if there's an error, then do this. It shows an error catcher, right? It's not the tidiest code, but if the result is true, then it's okay. Otherwise, it gives us the error, right? I know it seems as if I'm obsessed by errors, but it's good to catch them as they happen. Okay. So the reason I'm going to put a function in here is it's very obvious to me and hopefully to you that this section here is all about displaying everything in the database or everything in the table. Yeah. So it would seem natural that becomes a function. So what I'm going to do here is, firstly, there's a few ways of doing this, right? But I'm going to type in function and give it a name, right? And I'm just going to call it display underscore all. Okay. And then I need to put curly brackets at the top and at the bottom. I'll just put a wee comment end of function. Okay, so see above my query, set up your function. So function display all, and at the very last, just before you close your PHP, put in a closing tag. And I've just put a wee comment, just tell me that that's the end of the function. All right. Yes. Yes. There. Yeah. No. No. And it's stick right. That's fine. Whatever suits you. It'll ignore white space. So whatever you want to put it, that's fine. All right. So this, if I run this page now, it shouldn't display the table, right? Hopefully you're all familiar with that. Yes. There we go. It's disappeared, right? And it's because I've encased that in a function. If I, at the very bottom of my code, write in display all semicolon, hopefully it should then work. Oh, it doesn't like it. Okay. Maybe not. Nah, it should. Display all, display all. Nah, it shouldn't be. Right, 2 seconds. I don't really see what have I written function wrong or something? Function display all. Display all. Whose is button? Just yours? Strange. No, okay, okay. Alright. The function should. I don't need to pass it at all. Right, do you know what? Actually, do you know? Right, start match now then, okay? I'll find out why it's not doing it. Okay, now it's a good point to save it because we've got everything working right. So I'm going to start talking about the paperwork of the project, but I will come back to that.